We're picking up, if you have not got, one of the books in the back there. They're free for you. It's this book that I'm showing here on the PowerPoint, Reasons to Believe. Now, before Father's Day, we covered chapter 1, or reason 1 and reason number 2. And so today I want to cover beginning with 3, but just a little bit of review. How can you know that God exists? I mentioned that if I were to pass out a sheet of paper to you and you were to write down whatever you think a reason why God exists, what would be some of your reasons? Well, hopefully it would be in a roundabout way some of the things that I have written down here or that are in this book. But since we can't see God, we can't hear God, we can't smell Him, we can't taste Him, He's not going to magically appear before us in this room here, more than likely not, although He could, but more than likely He will not. So how can you know that God exists? Atheists contend that God does not exist. Agnostics are those who really don't know for sure if God exists or not. They haven't found enough proof to convince them of the fact, and so they're on the fence. Theism, which we are, theists, we believe in God. And we can see that through Scripture, through nature, and many other things that we're going to show here today. I want us to consider 7 lines of evidence. First of all, the first week we covered several weeks ago, we covered matter demands a maker. The earth, the material earth that we have here. Where did it come from? It demands a maker, and so it must have a cause here. A lot of people use the Big Bang Theory, and that's what you see on the screen here, is that all of a sudden, bam, in milliseconds, this universe and all the universes and all the stars and everything all of a sudden just jumped out there. Well, who got the jump started? You know, that's the question I would ask. And of course, that is not true at all in any way here. Second of all, we see that life demands a maker. Where did you come from? I came from my mother. Well, where did your mother come from? From her mother. Where did she come from? All the way down the line until we come to the end there. Who made the first man and woman? Well, God made the first man and woman here. Today we're starting with a design. Think about that for just a moment. Design. Now, I put just a couple examples here, and I could spend my entire lesson on this because on each one of these points, actually. But if you pick up the book, it will not have everything that I say. It will have the outline, but it won't have anything else. But think about this. Think of the complexity and the functional design of our universe, of people, demand a designer. The universe exhibits complex functional design. Therefore, the universe must have a designer. If we have a painting, the paintings that you see on the walls that we have here, or the Mona Lisa, we know who painted the Mona Lisa. Paintings that we see demands a painter. Poems. I never was good at poems. I'm like you probably learned a few in high school that you had to learn or something of that nature, but they got to have a writer. Architects. As you look around and see things, amazing things that are built, I just cannot imagine they just keep building skyscrapers higher and higher and higher. I've been up in the Empire State Building a couple of times, but now that I stop and think about how they could collapse, I don't want to be up there when they collapse, going up that elevator. But everyone knows that cars and computers and pianos require engineers and technicians and tuners. I was looking up And of course, you know where cars are going in the future. They will be driverless cars. This here is something that they're working on right now, just like you do with Google. You can ask Google, how do I get to Minnesota? And it give you the directions. Google, how do I fix a particular pie? And it will give you directions. Google about this. Google about that. I'm learning that a little bit more as I've been getting used to my iPhone there. But anyway, the one that I happen to pick out here, the slide that talks about he wanting to know about dinosaurs. So we can learn information even in our cars. And I think you know that. I mean, I love just putting my CD in there and putting the Bible on CD and let it play while I'm traveling. I like to do that a lot. Either that I'm listening to a religious radio station. But what about the universe as a whole? Can it be described accurately as designed? And if so, what such design implies its origin here? Now, this first sentence here is important. Notice that it says, no, boy, that got a little bit of feedback there. No honest person can deny the fact that the universe is extremely fine-tuned. Now, I'm going to give you a couple examples of that here in just a moment. Our universe is very important here. From the Earth's precise orbit around the sun to the showbird's 15,000-mile yearly migration pattern, the amazing digestive system. You know, some people talk to me about eating the hot, what do you call them? Jalapenos and stuff like that. And man, I just would roll over and die. And you know, you see contests on people eating those things, and whoo, how can their digestive system take it? I can't take anything but a hamburger and French fries. So you know about my digestive system there, but I just happen to think of the earth. And the earth, how that it sits on an axis. Why is the earth sitting on the axis? Well, I don't have time to give you a great science lesson here. I did pull out a couple of points. How fast is the earth spinning? Does anybody know? And it's around the equator, not around the poles. Around the equator, how fast are we spinning? Just under 1,000 miles per hour. We're spinning. 1,000 miles per hour. Now we're tilted at 23.5 degrees here. We're going to the right. We're spinning to the right. And with it like this, on its axis, that's what gives us day and night as it spins around. Gives us the day and night here. If the earth was to stop spinning for just a second, now I'm going to ask you a Bible question here in just a moment. I meant to look it up, but I didn't. If the earth was to stop spinning for 1 second, what would happen? 1 second. If it stopped about 1,000 miles, everything would be flung to the east. Just everything would be, it'd just be obliteration. Worse than the tornado, hurricane, anything you could possibly think, total devastation if the earth was to stop. Okay. But where in the Bible do we read about the sun stood still? Do you remember Hezekiah? He was sick, and the prophet come in and told him that God told him to get his house in order because he's going to die. And he turned to God and prayed very fervently. And before the prophet got out of his property line, God told him to go back and tell him what? What did God tell him to go back and tell him? How many? 15 more years. But the sad part of it is he did not use those 15 wisely if you read the rest of the story. But hey, I want proof I got 15 more years. Give me some proof. And so the prophet said, well, God can make the sun advance 10 more degrees from right now, or God can reverse the sun 10 degrees from right now. Which one would you want as proof? And what did he choose? Reverse. Why did he choose reverse? Because it's easy to go forward. So he wanted it what would happen to our earth if it reversed? That's a good question. Some people point right there. That's the reason the Bible is not true. That's an impossibility. Well, what's possible with God? What can God do? Can God take a virgin and have a child come from that virgin to save the world? Can God do that? God can do whatever He wants to do. He is able to do, you know. And so, and then of course, I was trying to think of the battle where they were fighting as long as, I think it was, wasn't it Moses' arms held up or Joshua's arms? It was held up. They were winning the battle and the day went longer than it was supposed to go. You know, some people say it went 12 hours or more longer. But anyway, but how can you get design without purpose? What is the purpose of all this? Why did God speak it into existence? Because God eventually wanted a people, are you listening? He wanted a people that was going to worship Him freely. That's the reason we're here. And until a person comes to the point in their life and say, what's the point of me being here? I work every day, I make money every day, I eat every day, I sleep. What is the purpose? Is it to work to the weekend and then unhold bars, just do whatever you want to do? I mean, a lot of people I talk to, they say, I'm working for the weekend. You know, I passed by the golf course this morning and saw them out there playing golf this morning at 8:30 as we were leaving Washington this morning. They were lined up on the golf course out there playing this morning. Is that the reason we're here? For enjoyment, for pleasure? God wants people to worship Him. Not everybody will. So He had a deliberate, purposeful planning and a detailed plan and inventive arrangement here. The universe exhibits functional design. By definition, complex functional design demands a designer. Some things we look at are very complex. Some things are very simple. But this argument for God is logically sound and observantly true. A person can know without a doubt that God exists, if for no other reason, design. Let me say something else about design. What if our earth was 1 degree closer to the sun? What would happen to our earth? 1 degree. 1 degree. We would burn up. What if we were 1 degree further away from the sun than where we're at right now? We would freeze to death. I mean, if you stopped and looked at anything here on this earth, you see a very complex design. And to think that that just happened, give me a break. Now then, you on the flip side, you come right back at me and say, well, what about all the killing? What about all the pain? What about all the hurricanes? What about the tsunami? What about innocent children with cancer, 4 or 5 years old, and they're up there at Raleigh Hospital right now? If we went up there, we would find mothers and dad in tears. Why does my child have cancer? What kind of God would do that to a child? What would we say? Is it God's fault? No. No. It is man's fault. It is man from the time of Adam and Eve and especially from Noah, because the world started over in Noah's time. When each generation, things happen to our bodies and to our cells, and sometimes we pass things on to our children and different things of this nature. I had a cancer spot on my back this past week that I had a biopsy taken of this past week. So it's only going to hurt for a second here, Pat. And they took a cancer biopsy. And I can remember when I was these kids' age running around with no t-shirt. I can remember many, many times I got sun blistered. So bad. I couldn't even put a shirt on. I'd get blistered so bad. You know, where does cancer come from? That. Running around, and I see people all the time. But anyway, that was just another example here. Let me move to reason number 4, and if you pick up the books back there, you would see number 4. Intelligence. Am I talking to you? Intelligence. Do you have intelligence today? Intelligence demands a creator. Everything that possesses intelligence must have been caused by something intelligent. Now, we look at some people and we say, well, those people, they're still intelligent. No matter what you say, they're still intelligent. Some things happen, and unfortunately, some people don't ever mature for various reasons. But on the general scale here, that intelligence demands intelligence. Organisms such as animals and humans possess intelligence. Now, I started to bring my pet today, Bill. I started to bring my dog today. I thought about it. I have a dog at home. Stands about this tall. I tell him to sit, he sits. I tell him to be quiet, he stays quiet. He's not a good watchdog. He doesn't eat very much. I call him Spot. That's his name, Spot. He's black and white, Spot. He's ceramic. I guess you figured that out there. My dogs, every one I had, wouldn't do anything. I couldn't get to do anything. But some people, I was hearing this past week or two that they had a dog for a bat boy on the baseball team, that he would actually fetch the bats and bring them back. I don't know if I would like slobber all over my bat and everything, but anyway, you can teach. I could never teach them to do anything. But let's define intelligence here. Intelligence is the capacity to acquire and apply knowledge. We go to school, we gain a lot of knowledge, and then we must apply it out in the workplace or outside of school there. The ability to learn, to understand things, to deal with new things and things that are difficult there. For instance, building a spaceship. You know, I love this movie here, Hidden Figures. These 3 black women that help us get to the moon here. One of them was a computer. She could do everything practically in her mind and everything. But how can we get spaceships to the moon and back? I also thought of Apollo 13. Does anybody remember what happened to Apollo 13? One of its air tanks, I think, blew up or something of that, and it caused a major malfunction, and they had to turn around and come back. How about the artificial hearts that they are now able to put into somebody? Pacemakers that they're able to put into somebody. And they're able to construct computers that will do billions of pieces of information in a second. Now, I saw this here as I was looking for something on computers here, talking about the history of computers. I don't have time to do all of that, but over here we see that in the 1950s, they started really becoming where we could have one and touch one. Up until the 50s, there was only 100 computers in 1953. I Googled that. There was 100 computers in 1953 around the world combined. And now if you're like me, we have 4 or 5 in our household. I don't get rid of my computers because I don't want somebody else to have my information on my hard drive there. But in Romans chapter 1, verses 22 through 30 here, although Paul's speaking here, although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. Man is seems to be no limitation to man. I mean, now we have 3D printers that can make artificial limbs and all kinds of gadgets and stuff with a 3D. They can make guns with 3D printers, supposedly not detectable as they go through a detection machine there. We think we have become so smart. I think people think that they're going to outsmart God. I don't think so. But here it says they had exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore, God gave them over to their sinful desires. If you want to run away from God, God will let you. If you want to turn your back on God, God will let you. By the same token, He wants you to come His way. And then He goes on to talk about verse 25 there, they exchanged the truth about God for a lie. Why? Why believe Darwinism? Why believe that we came from an egg? Why do something like that? So I won't be held accountable to somebody who created me. I won't be held accountable. I can do whatever I want to, whenever I want to, with whomever I want to, whatever I want to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. You ever run into people like that? And that's a shame. Therefore, animals and humans must have been created by an intelligent being. Intelligence is defined as the capacity to acquire and to apply the knowledge. I'm going to cover number 5. There's 7 of these steps here, but I'm going to cover number 5, and I'm going to stop with the ending of number 5. Morality. Morality, good and bad. Now stop and think about this for just a second. Morality. How can you determine what is good and what is bad without God? Let's think for just a moment. There is no God. Who's going to make the decision? Are you going to decide what is good? Are you going to decide what is bad? How are we going to do this? Because we can't live without that, can we not? Only the strong would survive. Those who are stronger than everybody else is going to make everybody else serve them. Who's going to decide? What are we going to do? If objective moral values exist, then God exists. Objective moral values such as good and evil, justice and injustice do exist. Therefore, God exists. Why do most people believe that it is evil or wicked? If an adult was to torture a woman, a man, a boy, a child, who's to decide if that is right or wrong? At what point? At what point? I believe if I was a youngin' today, a child today, and my dad was over me, he might be in jail. He gave me a lot of whoopings. Maybe I deserved them. You know, but a child says today, you better be careful. I'm going to call Child Protection Service and you're going to be in jail. My dad used to say, well, you go right ahead. But you're going to get this whooping right now. You know, or to beat or to rape an innocent woman. Parents have children for the sole purpose of abusing them. Isaiah 5 and verse 20 there, as we had read a while ago by Brylan, and y'all don't forget to encourage little Brylan. It takes a lot to get up here and to read, and he's doing a pretty good reading job. He reads a A lot better than I do or did when I even went to college there. But woe to those who call evil good and good evil. That's what we're doing today. We're making laws. Is it okay to smoke marijuana? Let's pass a law saying it's okay to smoke small amounts of marijuana. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Or it's okay to drink so much, but at a certain percentage, it's called drunk driving. If you don't drink that much, it's okay. Or you're at home or whatever. Call evil good, good evil, darkness for light, light for darkness, bitter for sweet, sweet for bitter. Although objective morality may be outside the realm of scientific method, every rational person can know that some things are innate good and innate bad. Is it bad to murder somebody? Is it bad to do harm to somebody just because you're bigger than they are? Do whatever it's wrong. It's wrong. If there is no God, then there is no objective basis to say that something is right or wrong. We can just do whatever we want to do. Who's to stop us? Are you going to stop me? You know? Reasons demand that objective good and evil can only exist if there is somebody real, objective reference point outside of nature. The only reasonable answer to an objective moral law for humans is a supernatural moral law giver. That would be God. What did He give us in the Old Testament? The 10 Commandments. We have 9 of the 10 repeated in the New Testament. One of them is not repeated. Number 4 is not repeated. You remember what number 4 is? Keep the Sabbath day. It is not repeated in the New Testament because we worship on the first day of the week. That's just one of the reasons. There are a number of other reasons. Okay, this is number 6 here. Bible supernatural attributes demand a supernatural author. Well, my time is up, and we'll start with number 6 next week. If you don't have a book, I have some back there. Please give them. They're easy to read. Now, a couple of words, and a lot of this that you see right there, that's directly copied right out of the book. That's not my terminology. That's the book. So, a couple of words are a little bit harder to read, but I think you can get the point and give it to somebody.